sick and I'm filling in for Kathleen this afternoon, but she sends her regards. And so thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it. Today, we're going to make sure that just at one, we want to give you an update on our cancer research that we have. Before we get started with that, I do want to make sure that throughout the call, when we get to our guest, there is the opportunity for question and answers throughout the conversation. So feel free to just put those in the chat or write your question down. And so when we get to that point, we'll make sure that we recognize and get your questions answered. So if we want to go ahead and pop up our slide, Jay. All right, so just as a recap, this is our ACS Career Growth and Research Excellence Group. So we're supporting the development and achievement of cancer researchers. An update for our current researcher, one of the researchers that we support is Dr. Angela Steineck. And so we know that her research is on the CAR T Plus, a pilot supportive care intervention for children during the CAR T cell therapy. So a couple of things. A couple of updates. So kind of in the early phase, we know that Dr. Steineck is activating her study at both Seattle Hospital and St. Jude's Research Hospital. So they're continuing to collect data. Her lab team has completed both site initiation visits and anticipate completing their interviews this spring. I think they do have a new published paper, which we'll show here in a second, but some final steps for submitting, they're in their final steps for submitting their two papers on patient-centered research and patients undergoing the CAR T cell therapy. So we'll go to the next slide. We'll make sure that you have the link to that authored paper that Dr. Angela is working on, but we're really excited that she is the lead author for the Access to Care, the narrative on real world medical decision making to access chimeric and antigen receptor CAR T cell therapy. A lot of hard words to say there, but yes, we're excited about their work and very proud that they're able to present in that space. I also, if you go to the next slide, I also want to make sure that we're aware that this is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer diagnosis among men and women, and we're continuing to see that increase in cases are growing among people 55 and younger than 55 years old. So it's important that we understand those risks of colorectal cancer and that we take the necessary steps to prevent and detect it. The work that ACS is doing around colorectal cancer. So one of the things we have 71.11 million invested in active colon cancer research. We've got 91 grants currently in effect right now, 90 investigators across the country that's supporting this work, and over 61 institutions supported across the country. So we hope that the work that we're doing with colorectal cancer will continue to help to reduce those increases that we're seeing. We know that colorectal cancer has a 91% survival rate when it's found early. So early detection and regular screening is key. So I just want to make sure that I know that right now that's not the research that we are funding, but it's important that we keep top of mind kind of the things that are happening around cancer research and right now just in support of that work. And then lastly, before we get into who are our keynote speakers here today, we want to make sure that we invite you. April 30th, we'll have an inside look at advancing cancer screening and early detection. And some of the people that will be on that call will have the Center for Early Cancer Detection Science with Dr. Robert Smith. He's the Senior VP of Cancer Screening, and he'll share his insights on the development of new cancer screening guidelines. We have the Cancer Risk 360 with Dr. Laura Makaroff. She's the Senior VP for Cancer Prevention, and she'll introduce a new tool that has helped people understand and reduce the individual cancer risk. And then finally, we'll have ACS's very own Pam Traxel on access to screening. And so Pam will talk about how we're working to make sure that cancer screening is more accessible for everyone, especially given light to some of the reductions that we're seeing around cancer research. We understand that it is ACS's role as the second largest funder of cancer research, only second to the US government, to help fill the gap as best we can. And so hopefully you're able to participate in that call and learn about ways that you can help us in this work. I'll pause there for any questions. All right, the QR code is there if you have not already registered, or you could visit us on the cancer.org website and reserve your spot there. So April 25th, we'd love for you to join us, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, 2:30 Central Standard Time. All right, on to the topic, and we are so proud to have two of our very own, Dr. Shawn Vogen and Dr. Kathy Goss, two of my absolute favorites with the American Cancer Society. They have done a tremendous amount of work here at ACS to advance cancer research, cancer care, cancer prevention. And with Shawn just helping with us with even fundraising. So we're just very blessed to have both of them here. Shawn Vogen, Dr. Vogen serves as our principal philanthropy director, and Dr. Kathy Goss serves as our senior scientific director for career growth and research excellence. So Shawn and Kathy, I'll turn it over to both of you.
Thank you, Kimberly. I'll start off with the group. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see the group. Just a quick way of background. I appreciate the intro, Kimberly. So for those of you who have not met, I am actually originally from Minnesota and went to college in Minnesota, then moved to Nebraska to do my PhD. And now for the last 30 years-ish, have lived in just outside of Chicago. So I am like a Midwest, North region triangle. I've got you covered with those different areas. And still have family back in Minnesota. So my wife and I are both from Minneapolis originally. So I serve right now I've been with ACS for about 18 months. As Kimberly mentioned, I am a principal for the North region, working on transformational gifts to support our mission across all of our pillars. But I have the honor and the privilege to be able to work with the discovery pillar specifically, led by Dr. Dayhood, our Chief Science Officer, and Kathy Goss is an amazing member of the team. So that's my role here. And so what I thought we would do to start is I'll just give a quick overview of where the discovery pillar is at, and then I'll turn it over to Kathy to dive into the really critically important program that she's leading and getting the next generation of scientists ready and to take over for and continue the great work for advancing our understanding of cancer. So I'll share my screen right now, and we do want this to be discussion. So I'm going to probably lose the ability to see y'all, but if you please just interrupt and say something, please don't feel free to just interrupt, and let's keep this rolling. It's a small group, so start with this deck. Yeah. So thought we'd give you a quick overview of where ACS is at. We all know our mission, and we're grateful for the work that you've done to help support the most recent grantee that Kimberly described, and the work that she's doing with her Clinician Scientist Development Grant. Overall, ACS, as you all know, has this tripartite mission and integrated approach looking at discovery, patient support, and advocacy. All of them are intertwined together. Research informs patient support and vice versa, and both inform advocacy and make sure that we can do what we can to not only advance the research, but bring those research outcomes to delivery to the patient and to inform different advocacy efforts to make sure that everyone has access to those the new treatments options. In the discovery pillar this I just listed out, and I'm not going to read all of them, but our work is really focused on bringing advancing the research from basic science all the way to the clinic. And so as you'll hear from Kathy, are the grant mechanisms that exist really kind of promote each of those different areas, and around looking at what we can do across the whole cancer continuum, and those grant mechanisms that helps advance those efforts. That includes making sure that we have research into cancer outcomes and survivorship, as well as looking at across the board how we can reduce suffering and deaths, with the lens of making sure that we have equal access for anybody across the country, whether it's in our urban centers or in more rural areas. And then the final point here I put a box around is because that's where we're going to focus most of the conversation today, around our priority of investing in the next generation of scientists. As a reminder, all of the work that we're doing here is due to philanthropy. We are so grateful for all of the donors that help support our efforts. And then last year, we raised roughly $750 million to support the efforts. And you'll hear about through Kathy's work what that is doing for our current efforts. So those programs that we have, and again, we'll focus today mostly on the postdoctoral fellowships and the career and the early career stage grants that are managed through Kathy's programs. But as mentioned, in the discovery pillar, we had last year around $125 million of new grants that were given out across a variety of programs, as you'll see here. Just to highlight a few of them before I turn it over to Kathy, we have a lot of work done in health equity and making sure that we are providing those efforts to the research opportunities for anybody across the board, and the research that's being done in our academic medical centers in the North region as well as across the country have that lens to make sure that everybody across the country has equal access to what we're doing. And the way the discovery team is managed is through these six different areas. And Kathy's going to highlight a little bit more of the work of the discovery science team, which is where the grant programs work, as well as the Center for Diversity and Research Training. But I also wanted to showcase some of the work that we're doing intramurally, and those are the work that is done in the surveillance and health equity science program, our cohort work with the population sciences, and a new effort we've launched with the cohort of voices of Black women. And it's an effort to bring, I think you've heard about it in past conversations with the Research Council, to look at and understand the disparity in the disparities in cancer in the Black women across the country. And then a very exciting and new kind of center that's being launched right now in early detection science, with a focus on understanding and how we can advance screening mechanisms and prevention practices to prevent cancer before it gets so far along that it becomes challenging to treat. And then just as a final kind of overview of this slide, this is our, ACS has been in existence for 110 years. In that time, we've had over $5 billion in funding has been awarded to the various labs across the country. And you'll see there's more than 25,000 investigators at 1,100 institutions. And we're really proud of the fact that 53 Nobel laureates were also called ACS grantees, many of whom are referenced and recognized that the grants that they received earlier in their career were pivotal for the rest of their career and how they launched their career through that. Carolyn Bertozzi, Dr. Dayhood, our Chief Science Officer, also references Dr. Carolyn Bertozzi when she was speaking at a group at the Discovery Ball in San Francisco, referenced how ACS was really the one granting organization that took a chance on her. She was not a biomedical science, she was a chemist by training, and she wanted to take her career in a different route. And the findings that she did landed her a Nobel Prize. And she references ACS as one of those grantees that got us ready. And I'll just, before I turn it to Kathy, these numbers really are sort from my perspective, and I'm a scientist, so I will be transparent and that I'm completely biased. But right now, especially with the current environment that we're in, what ACS is doing as the second largest and the largest nonprofit funder of cancer research and the second largest in the country, we are in a really pivotal place for us to be able to make a difference. And we're relying on donors, and we're grateful for the donors who are helping us keep on track the wonderful and amazing work that's being done. How do we keep that momentum going, especially in this time of uncertainty with federal funding happening? So I wanted to then turn it over to Kathy, and she can talk. There's a lot of information on the slide, so you don't have to read it, but I'm going to turn it to Kathy, and she can just provide a little update on our extramural discovery science program.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Shawn, so much. And thank you so much for inviting me. This is really a pleasure to meet you all and chat with you. Maybe before I jump in to more about the extramural discovery science team, as well as the program office that I lead in career growth and research excellence, I thought I'd just share a brief background about myself. So I'm a cancer biologist by training. I got into cancer research because I lost my dad to cancer when I was in college. He had a very aggressive type of brain cancer. And, it was just so important for me to be able to contribute in a meaningful way so that other people didn't have to lose their loved ones. And I really felt privileged my entire career of being able to contribute in a small way. And certainly coming to the American Cancer Society has just amplified that for me. So as I said, I'm a cancer biologist. I trained at Vanderbilt University for my PhD and then went to the University of Cincinnati for my postdoctoral fellowship. I then started my independent faculty and research lab at the University of Cincinnati, where I was so proud to receive a pilot grant from the institutional research grant from that institution. And I'm going to tell you about the IRG program a little bit more. It's really full circle. That was my first grant as an independent scientist. And so it's really full circle now to oversee that program. I then went on to be able to get a research scholar grant from ACS because of that pilot award. And it was a pay-if grant. We had the pay-if program in the past where research councils and other donors so generously raised money at a local level to fund those grants that were scientifically meritorious, but just missed the pay line. They just missed being able to be funded by our traditional funding. I am so indebted to not only donors who have supported the mission, but at that time, I also was very indebted and wanted to pay it forward with ACS. And so that led to almost 20 years of volunteering with the organization before coming to work here. I moved my lab from the University of Cincinnati to the University of Chicago several years ago. I ended up being at U of C for about 14 years. After I wasn't focused on my own cancer research, I was in cancer center administration, and where I got to oversee the IRG program and some other big institutional efforts. And so I've seen the science on both sides. I came to ACS in 2021, and then just joined this fantastic extramural team in last summer, so June of 2024. So as I said, so I'm in the Chicago area. I'm a Midwest girl, and just feel so privileged, especially right now, to have this role in helping fund not only the best science, but the most promising scientists. And really, the funding from ACS, I just want to underscore, because I've been there, is transformational for scientists, whether they're just starting their careers or even later stage. It can be really transformational for their science, for their lab, for their trainees, and really can move the needle. So, Shawn alluded to the fact that this current climate is incredibly, incredibly challenging for scientists across the country in cancer research and even more broadly. And we're hearing from our grantees. Literally, I cannot tell you, I hear from them every day about the challenges that they're facing and their fear about what happens next for them and for the whole ecosystem, frankly. And so I just want to underscore that our commitment to funding important and transformative cancer research is unwavering, and it's stronger than ever. And I would argue that it's more important now than ever. And so we're focused. We're putting our heads down, doing the work that we do. In fact, the last 2 weeks, I've been having peer review committees to review and evaluate all of the applications that came in the last cycle. That meant 345 postdoctoral fellowship applications that we just reviewed in the last 2 weeks. So we're continuing to just put our foot on the gas. But my point of saying all this is to say we couldn't do it without you as partners, because the need is tremendous. And our concern is that we're going to be feeling the impact of this climate for generations, frankly. And I'm not trying to be like overstate it, but for generations of scientists to come, because there's work that's stopping, there are clinical trials that are getting halted, there are postdoctoral or PhD programs that are being that offers to PhD students that are being rescinded for their programs for next year. So this is the state of things. So I'm not trying to alarm anyone, but I am trying to raise your awareness and say that there's a really important place for ACS to be a leader and continue to accelerate the really important work that we do. So thank you is really what I want to say, but also we're in this together, and let's just keep working hard so that we can continue to move. So Shawn, let's on this slide, let's just cover. I'm going to talk about this in more detail in a minute. So I'm going to skip over this slide to give you a little context. So really, one thing that's important to say is that a differentiator for the American Cancer Society when it comes to funding cancer research is that we are agnostic to the type of cancer research and the tumor types that it focuses on. And it's really across that entire cancer research continuum that really overlays beautifully with the cancer care continuum, that we care about funding research in the fundamental etiology of cancer. You can go to the next slide. That would be fine.
All right.
You're good. To how we can better prevent and reduce risk of cancer, more sensitively and earlier detect cancer and diagnose it, and really understand what that diagnosis means in terms of molecular features and prognosis, better treat cancer with new and more tailored cancer treatments. But it's not just about that, but it's also helping patients to survive cancer better and have a higher quality of life. And so these the cancer extramural discovery science programs cover this entire spectrum. And so I just want to make sure that you understand that, again, that's a differentiator for us, because we recognize that there's important work happening in all of these spaces. Next slide. And so we have several funding mechanisms, and I'm going to talk a little bit in more detail about the funding mechanisms that I oversee. But there are several funding grant mechanisms that ACS has developed to support investigators at all of these stages throughout their career. And so we focus on the scientists who are just training, they receive their PhD, but now have to build a track record in the field to make a name for themselves and get that added experience so that they can then launch their own independent research programs. We fund, really, ACS has had a particular focus on early stage career scientists. So you can see some of the programs that are focused there, the Clinician Science Development Grant, the Institutional Research Grant that I'm going to tell you more about, and the Research Scholar Grant, which again, I mentioned that I had when I was starting out my lab. And that one is so important because it's really the bread and butter of the work that goes on in research labs across the country. But we also help support mid to late stage investigators through our Professor Award, which is our most prestigious and meritorious grant that we award. And I'm going to tell you more about that one. And then we have some funding opportunities that are really open to all scientific stages because we recognize that actually everyone needs support, and there are great ideas coming out of all of these folks. But at the same time, there has to be an emphasis to build that sustainable pipeline of outstanding scientists that are representative of all the kinds of science that we do. They're also diverse in where they do their science, what their background is, what their race and ethnicity is. We have to have a focus on mentorship and training. That is the only way that we're going to get the folks that are really well equipped to be successful at throughout their research careers. And so we've really invested a lot in that, and that's really at the heart of the program that I'm leading. Okay, next slide.
We're gonna flip to.
We're going to mine?
Yep, we're flipping to.
Awesome. You don't mind sharing, or would you like me to?
Nope, I'm happy to. Okay,
awesome. And I think we can probably, we can skip that one. I am just going to go back for 1 second and say, okay, well, what did all these funding mechanisms and all that investment, what did that look like in 2024? And so as of 2025, this is a snapshot, January, this is a snapshot of this investment in research funding across the country. And so you can imagine this is, it takes a lot to manage all of this. We had in each, we have 2 submission cycles for new grants. We had over 1,000 applications in each of those. So here's the result of that really hard work of managing all of those, the review, the intake and review and funding of all of those awards. So in total, it's more than 500 million in January because we started a whole new slate of grants. That represents many of these mechanisms that I've mentioned and a few special initiatives that we've had. I love looking at this map because it gives you an indication of the breadth of the reach that we have across institutions really throughout the country. Shawn already mentioned more than 130 million just in new awards in 2024, and that's more than 300 grants at more than 100 institutions. Again, I've already made this point, so I won't dwell on it, but what's really, really important for us at the American Cancer Society is that we're funding the best science, and that we also recognize that funding a project in breast cancer may actually inform work that's happening in colorectal cancer. Actually, that was the grant that I had from ACS. I studied a gene that is well known to be important in colorectal cancer, and we were studying its effect in breast cancer. So that is the kind of power that the funding at ACS has, that we are agnostic to the type of cancer that we're focused on. We just want to fund the best science and the brightest scientists. Next slide. And then I've already mentioned this, so we don't have to dwell on this, but from the cancer research continuum, it's like everything from that fundamental cell and molecular biology, like what is happening at the level of the cell and molecules, all the way to population and clinical studies in humans. And then that really important work in between, that is, we call it translational research, in which you're taking those observations in the lab and you're saying, well, how is this actually going to impact cancer patients? And so you're doing things like preclinical studies and designing early clinical studies. So it's really this entire continuum, and that's the power of it, is because if you focus on one area, great, you might have a lot of things in the pipeline, but you haven't applied it to cancer patients and their families, which is really at the heart of what we want to improve. But on the other hand, if you focus only on that side and you don't understand anything about the biology, it's really hard to do things like develop new approaches to detect and treat cancer. So the power lies within really focusing on all of it more broadly. Next slide. So I want to share, so the way that we're organized is in program offices. And so I have 3 counterparts that are leading scientific program offices where the science dictates how the grant comes in and is managed. The grant application comes in, is managed, reviewed, evaluated, funded, and then we work with those grantees. And so so it's broken up by the 3 categories that I just mentioned. Fundamental science in the green, so really basic molecular biology and immunology. In the middle, that translational and preclinical work, and then in the purple, in the studies having to do with human populations. And so my colleagues, Doug and Paul and Joanne, lead these offices. And you can see we have 3 standard grant mechanisms that are reviewed in these program offices, and it's broken up by the science. So an application comes in, we look at the science that they're proposing, then we assign it to a program office, and then it gets further assigned to one of these peer review committees to aid us in the evaluation of that science. And so it kind of narrows down the focus a little bit, and you can see the titles there. Next slide. But when I came on board last summer, I was super excited because we were able to build a new program office. And this one is a great complement to those other 3 scientific program offices, but it focuses on not on the type of science, but where they are in their career. And the reason for that is we've recognized that these folks need more support, and there's opportunity. So really, this program office is dedicated to 3 funding mechanisms: postdoctoral fellowships, institutional research grants, and our ACS Professor Award. And we'll talk more about those in a minute. And here's the breakdown of how we evaluate those grant applications and manage the grants through peer review. But really, the vision of this program is to not only support the launch of careers of those early stage scientists, but also support the research and mentoring activities of our most elite investigators that are at the professor stage. So it's really bringing these folks together and capitalizing on the strength that they bring to the table, and making sure that our young people are learning from those people that are well established and the leaders, the true thought leaders of their field. So it's bringing that magic together. Next slide. Importantly, it's not just about managing grant applications either. We have an opportunity in this new program office to actually support these investigators in any way that we can. So for postdoctoral fellows, we're launching a new webinar series. I'm just going to give you a few examples of the things that we're doing. We're launching a new webinar series actually starting next week. That is just for them, and we're going to focus on their science. They get to present and get that experience, but we're also focused on career development activities. You can go to the next slide, Shawn. Thank you.
My computer keeps a mind of its own. My apologies.
Yeah, no worries. And then at the other end, our professors, there's a real opportunity. These are, as I said, the thought leaders, the movers and shakers of the field, really the top of the top. How do we engage them more? Not just in things like mentorship for our postdoctoral fellows and our institutional research grant early stage investigators, but how do we do better connecting them to donors, to regional staff, to the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network for advocacy work, et cetera. So there's lots of opportunity there. And these people are so impressive. I just can't even say. They're amazing. And then our institutional research grants. These grants, as you'll see in a minute, they fund pilot grants for early stage scientists. Well, we now have a pool of early stage scientists that are ripe for more help. And so we're going to be launching a grant writing boot camp for them. We're going to be pulling together our IRG institutions and leaders. And also we've revised the program a little bit to make it a little less onerous and focus on, really the good stuff with them. And then I last wanted to just mention that Nicole and I, this is Dr. Lepanic, who runs the program with me. We also are the scientific leaders for ACS, for the ACS Lisa Dean Mosley Foundation Cancer Stem Cell Consortium. And this consortium is amazing. It was funded through this incredible gift from the Lisa Dean Mosley Foundation. It funded several investigators and team awards, all in the area of cancer stem cells. And so we are supporting the science, supporting these investigators, pulling together a retreat soon, as well as helping them foster collaboration through some pilot grants. So it's all really fun stuff. So it's managing grants, but it's also doing really great things. And this, I'll tell you, this plays to my interest in career development. When I was a cancer center administrator, I helped develop a couple of programs for high school and college students. Listen, there's nothing like more inspiring than helping young people become successful and really paying it forward. So I see this as a real privilege. Okay. Okay, I'm going to quickly go into these funding opportunities that our office focuses on. There are 3 that are listed here in the teal color. So postdoctoral fellowships, the institutional research grant, and the professor award. Next slide. Let's talk postdocs. So these are folks who have done their PhD and are still training, but they're needing to get, establish that track record before they can get a faculty position or even go into industry or other roles, which we need them to be great scientists to be able to contribute significantly in those other roles. So these are the purpose is really to help them develop the skills necessary to be competitive for an independent career in cancer research. Importantly, this is open to U.S. citizens and non-citizens. And we're one of the only folks that support postdocs that are not U.S. citizens. So, this speaks to why we had 345 applications to review this last cycle. We will end up funding, last year it was about 14%. I'm guessing this year it'll be about 10 to 15%, depending on the funding we have available. You can see the amount, it really goes to their stipends, so their salaries, plus a small allowance for the investigator, the fellow. And then, and importantly, this is about evaluating their science, but also what is their promise and sort of potential to be an outstanding scientist, as well as are they in a great environment with great mentors to be successful. So as I said, we just reviewed these. It's amazing to hear about the great science that is going on across all of our institutions. And we're trying to identify those top applications to fund. Next slide, please. The institutional research grant. This is one I just love this program. It is so impactful. Talk about a lot of bang for our buck. This is about giving awards to an institution as a block grant, and then they provide seed money to their early stage independent investigators. So these are folks that are just getting their career research program started. And this award can jumpstart that because they're getting that preliminary data that will help them compete for a larger grant. And this is the one that I said, it was my first grant in 2002. Thank you. I was so proud to be able to get this, because then it allowed me to compete for a larger grant, which I was able to get. We've just made some revisions to this program. It's now for 4 years, $120,000 a year for new awards. For renewals, we're asking the institutions to chip in a little money, have some skin in the game. And so we've reduced the total amount that they're getting, but want to see how they sustain this program. And this is no indirect costs are provided with this award. All the money goes directly to funding these projects. And they get to choose how much money goes to each project and for how many projects they're going to fund. They're typically 1-year projects, and again, enough to get them, those folks going in their science. Next slide. And then the last program that's in my portfolio is the Professor Award. I've already described these folks. They have made seminal contributions into cancer research, really transformative work. And they have a super strong track record of excellence in research, in mentorship, and training the next generation, as well as service locally, nationally, and also to ACS. This is a small amount of money, $80,000 a year for 5 years. But it's incredibly honorific. No indirects for this, and they can use the money however they like, and it can be renewed one time. So most of our professors get a 10 years of funding from us. What we love about this program is that they get to do something kind of on the side that might be high risk, but potentially high yield. I talked to one of our professors the other day that, in fact, NCI had canceled her R01 in the 5th year, a grant from the NIH, in her 5th year of funding for that grant. And she's like, Kathy, what do I do? Well, at least now I have my ACS Professor Award and can direct that in any way that I need to fill the gap. So they love this program. I'm also going to share with you that we reviewed these grant applications, and the caliber, we'll fund about 4 of these each year. The caliber of applications, I'm like in awe. I mean, these are the people that we are recommending for funding. They have been like my scientific heroes. And I'm like not overstating this. Shawn, if I told you who they were, you'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. Including a Nobel Prize winner who I don't think has been funded by ACS before, has done cancer adjacent but really important work. I have to double check that, so don't quote me, but I think. But we're likely going to be funding another Nobel Prize winner. So and then you bring them into your circle, and then they're part of our ACS family forever. We see them at a conference, the Giler conference. That's what that picture is down below. Every other year we invite them. And there are folks that are like now in their late 70s that come to this meeting because they love it. They love ACS. And they are now spokespeople, champions for the organization and for cancer research in general. So this program is so incredible and impactful. And as I said, we're now like really amping up what we can do with those folks to help us with our programs and really be amazing spokespeople for ACS. Okay, next slide. Sorry, I'm probably talking too long. I want to make sure we have time. You guys, I put this in there because I know you've supported research scholar grants before. You know about this. As I said, it's sort of the bread and butter grant for independent early stage faculty to get their work moving and support their lab. So that's a really important mechanism. And then next slide. Trying to remember this is really about exploratory, high risk, high yield projects, smaller in duration and funding, but like really those like, this is a great idea. Not sure it'll work, but let's give it some oomph and see where it goes. And then the next one I wanted to mention is Mission Boost, because this one is so unique to ACS because it's supporting work that's going into the clinic. And that work can be clinical trials, super expensive. We don't fund clinical trials, those big ones, because that's just beyond our scope. But we can fund people to help to get from here to be ready to go into clinical trials. And that's what Mission Boost is all about. Next slide. There are always new initiatives that we support through partnerships or because we've identified gaps in the field. And so here's just a list of a few of them that are current right now. But it's always, we're always looking for new partnerships. Where can ACS have the highest impact? And that's sometimes with a partner, that's sometimes because we learn something from our cancer facts and figures about, really an area of need or trends. And it's like, let's invest in that. Next slide. I wanted to very quickly tell you we have an awesome impact and engagement team in our extramural science group. And so that's really helping us pull the data as well as manage relationships with our grantees. Because again, once you're in the family, you're always in the ACS family. If you've been funded. And then this, I wanted just to mention, because my program starts with postdoctoral fellows and beyond, ACS has really, really invested in even those few stages before a postdoctoral fellow. So the Center for Diversity in Cancer Research Training is absolutely incredible, has 3 programs. You can see here, one for high school students, one for undergraduates, and one for pre-doctoral students. And we supported more than almost 500 students last year. 500. So again, talk about the reach that ACS is having with these programs. It's really, really incredible. And the point I wanted to make, there's tremendous synergy between Dr. Daniels' center and my program office. We are working together because we realize this is all about building that pipeline. And you get them in the pipeline, we want to keep moving them through. And so we're working really closely together. Okay, next slide. There we go, Q&A. Again, I talked too much. Shawn, I don't know if you have other slides to show or we're able to open it up.
I think we should open it up. The only thing I would add thank you, Kathy. The only thing I would add just for context for the North Region group is that of that $500 million that Kathy described and all the programs that are that the $500 million supports, in the North Region, there's about a fifth of that, $100 million was in the North Region. And spread out across the whole different area for 139 institutions in the 17 states. So just wanted to share that little bit of context for what you all are working on, and we're grateful for the support that you're making. So, but yes, please, questions for Kathy.
There's a lot of info.
Hi, Kathy. I'm David Yeakel. I'm one of the philanthropy directors in the region, and the questions have started to come up. I think our donors are getting pretty knowledgeable about research, and one of the questions was related to those direct and indirect costs. Can you share some examples about what those might be within different projects? And he asked, and I don't think I was able to articulate very well because I didn't really know a lot about that. So just some examples that we might be able to share or that's helpful for our donors here about learning those differences.
Yeah, thank you so much, David, for asking that question. It's really important. It's been in the news a lot. It's funny because as scientists, we've been dealing with indirects for our whole careers, and then all of a sudden, other people care about that. But it's indirect costs are really, really important additional funding that is provided from a funding agency to support the work that that scientist is conducting. So when someone applies for a grant and they outline exactly what they're going to do, they are talking, okay, here's exactly what I'm going to do over the term of the grant and who I'm going to support and how I'm going to spend those dollars, whether it's with personnel for their team, supplies, their a little bit of their own salary, um, you know, uh, collaborators, whatever it is. So those are direct costs that are going directly to support that project, and that is that for that scientist. Now the dollars go to the institution, right? They don't go, it's not going in the pocket of the scientists. Go to the institution. The institution manages it, and then the scientists can use that money to fund the work that they proposed, right? Well, that doesn't account for all the things that are needed to do the work. So those extra things, you can think about it almost as somebody told me a great analogy. It's almost like football that you're supporting the player with the direct cost, but like somebody's got to buy the uniform, somebody's got to build the stadium, somebody's got to provide all of the equipment for that football team. It's not just the salary of the person. So indirect costs often will cover things like shared research facilities. So if I am doing work that I don't have expertise in, say it's microscopy, that's like really high tech microscopy, that I don't have that instrument in my lab and I don't have that expertise, but it's important for my science. I can go to a shared resource at the institution and do the work there, and I get a subsidy. I don't have to pay top dollar for it. I get a subsidy. I don't have to, I get a discount because they're indirect costs that are sharing the load. They pay for things like administrative teams that manage not only graduate programs, but um, cancer center administrative staff, grants offices. They're dollars to support all the people that you need to do the work behind the scenes. Their dollars, I hear people say it's to keep the lights on, it's for the water, and it's for the building. The truth is that's pretty minuscule. Institutions cover that stuff for the most part. It's really that other stuff that people need, biostatisticians that can support the work, and tell us how important it is. So it's the extra stuff. You can call it infrastructure. You can call it additional resources that are needed to conduct the research. So the system has relied on the indirect costs that have come from the government, from the National Institutes of Health and their grants. Those rates are negotiated from institution to institution with the government. And now there's a proposal to reduce them all to the same amount and a very low amount. Organizations like ACS, we've always kept our amounts low so that most of our mission dollars can go to fund that research project. But now there's a concern that if everything comes low, then where are those dollars coming from? And does that mean that the grant that someone applies to for ACS, they're now going to be saying, yeah, but now I need more money to cover that microscopy experiment. Now it's going to cost me a lot more, so I'm going to take it from my ACS grant, for example. So there's a concern overall that our dollars aren't going to go as far, and I think that's a legitimate concern. I don't see ACS raising their indirect rates because, again, we want to focus on the science that the investigator is doing. But most of our grants have about a 10% indirect rate. I hope that was helpful.
It was great.
Probably
Thank you so much.
more than you needed.
I'll always take more than I need.
Any other questions? We are getting a lot of questions about the indirect costs, so thanks for bringing that up, Dave. And I think what Kathy said too is the efficiency that you can, when you have a shared services that is paid for by indirect costs, the efficiency that allows for that allows more money to go right to the researchers and to the investigations is a critical piece that's seems to be getting lost in the narrative that is happening at the moment. So it is a critical, important question. So
efficiency and scale, I would say
Scale, yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Scale. You know, people are going to be able to do things on a smaller scale, but like that ability to scale and to collaborate in a really powerful, meaningful way, I really worry it is going to be at risk.
Exactly. With the experts that are hired to do that very specific kind of work is going to get lost potentially. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I would just add about this indirect piece, and this is my own bias coming from working in an academic center for, 25 years. I hear a lot like, oh, big institutions that have a big endowment, like they're going to be fine. That's actually not necessarily the case. And I would push back on that assessment. Endowments are, as you all know, are really, they're designated for very specific purposes. They can't just take those endowments and spend it on, other research related infrastructure that was covered in other ways. And it's not easily accessible. So it is a real challenge across the board. Whether certainly some institutions are going to be more vulnerable to some of these changes. They don't have that sort of maybe a big philanthropy base or other sort of way that they can manage this. But so some will be certainly more vulnerable than others, but it is going to hit everyone. It is really going to hit everyone. So I just want to, I just do think that it's important to recognize this is a challenge that is really puts the cancer research ecosystem at risk beyond just individual institutions.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Dr. Goss and Dr. Vogen. It was such a pleasure to have the both of you. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. I think it's critical to understand just kind of what the impact is and understand why your support is just so important. Looking forward to seeing everyone in April for 2025 for the next connection. You should be receiving communication from your own ACS team member as a reminder of the April 25th event. If you are interested, we'd love for you to participate and join us in that discussion. You'll hear a little bit more about what American Cancer Society is doing holistically as it relates to helping to fill these gaps that we're seeing around research, not just on the funding side, but also on the public policy side. So more to come. I hope that you join us. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And we look forward to continue working with you. Have a great evening.
Take care.
Thank
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.